Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Wee Ood, an unofficial Doctor Who watch along podcast. I am your host, Cameron. I'm here with my co host, Ben. How are you doing today, Ben?
I am doing fantastic. Excited to finally be, well, I guess it's bittersweet, actually. I am excited that we're finally, although we're still doing some expanded media stuff, we're finally at the end of Jon Pertwee, ready for Tom Baker. However, I am sad that he will be gone.
Yes.
I'm sure, like every doctor that's going on, I'm going to be like, who's this guy? That's not my doctor.
But part of me thinks that that can't Tom Baker is such just the doctor in my head that I don't even imagine a world that you watch Robot and don't go immediately just there's a reason why he is the doctor.
Really? You think I'm gonna be immediately on board? First episode of Robot?
He's that good in the first episode of Robot that just immediately you just go, wow, he really was just born to play this part. And there's a reason why the show has been going on for 60 plus fucking years now.
Wow.
And that's because of Tom Baker. But today we're not going to be talking about Tom Baker. Today we're going to be talking about Jon Pertwee's last story, Planet of the Spiders. Planet of the Spiders, Ben, I don't know if you know this, came out on May 4th, 1974, and ended on June 8th, 1974, and was, of course, the last story for Jon Pertwee's Doctor. Last story of season 11, and kind of an end of an era. The era really doesn't end until Robot next season.
Yeah.
That's the last actual episode of Barry Letts and Terrence Dicks, who of course basically ran the show for the majority of the Pertwee era. Their creative minds is kind of what we can say is responsible for the majority of decisions in this era. This one being a big example of that. Barry Letts directed this episode, co-wrote this episode, and produced this episode. This is the only time in Doctor Who's history that the writer and director are the same, and I think it probably will stay that way when you add on top of it that he was also the producer. Insane amount of work that Barry Letts put into this episode.
Mhm.
Of course, he also co-wrote it with Robert Sloman, and Terrence Dicks is still the script editor, like I mentioned before. Ben, what did you think of Planet of the Spiders?
It was good. Pretty good even. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say really good. I think it does a lot of things right, and there are a lot of things that feel like missed opportunities. So many times I said, "Oh," like my mind was racing like, "Oh, what if they do this? What if they do that?" And they do something 10 times less cool. But I mean, with the story that is there is interesting. There's a lot of, running around. I wish it was a little bit more focused on the doctor and his struggles. Like we get hints at in like the last episode where he has to like face his fears, but I wish that fear was more present throughout, or it would like kind of tie everything together with his journey that he's gone on the last 5 seasons. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I would say my thoughts about this is that it suffers from what we talk about a lot for this era of the six pot conundrum
Hmm.
of there's just not enough story there for six pots. They do stretch it out a lot. There's a point in the story where since this is a six potter, they do a big scene change to Metabolus 3 in pot at the end of pot 3, but majority of it is pot 4, right?
Yeah.
And I just think that's when the story really drags for me, and I'm just my interest in it wanes.
Yeah, once we have like these random human colonists that talk all Shakespearean, but that was way less interesting than I thought it was gonna go. Like if it was just spiders, if they didn't have random, it would have been so much better.
There is something about this era about colonizations that just somehow they just don't. It doesn't work. It doesn't never really work.
No.
But there's still a lot I enjoy about this story.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is still a fun action adventure serial. There's a lot of moments where Pertwee can be a hero for the last time. Of course, we're going to be talking about it later, but he has the epic chase sequence.
Oh, like that's half of episode 2. just vehicle after vehicle.
And then, like, I think that there's a lot of good stuff about the spiders and the Buddhist stuff in there that I think that it does make the story overall good, even though I think that there's a lot of padding there. And I wish that if this story was a four-parter, I think it would be a really good story. But
Yeah.
because it kind of needs to drag on for a bit and it kind of needs to add some stuff in there that doesn't need to really be there, I kind of lose interest in it.
Yeah, I almost think if this wasn't a regeneration story, it would be just kinda an unremarkable like, if this was just, like, a random six-parter in season 10, we wouldn't really dwell on it that much, you know?
Yeah, no, like if this was like the in the same slot of like the end of the season, like Green Death and the Time Monster and the Demons, it kind of fits that space because it's of course written by Barry Letts and Robert Sloman, who did all those other serials at the end of the season, and it
Mhm.
kind of fits in there. You know, you can see a lot of they have things that they go back to, but I think this is one of I shouldn't say one of my favorites because I don't think this is as good as the Green Death or the Demons, but I prefer this to the Time Monster, of course.
I'll give you that, but there's a lot of stuff that was introduced in the Time Monster, which I realize now is the same writer
Yeah.
that comes back here.
Let's start off with just the first thing to just talk about it. I think is this a good departing story for John?
That is the question, really. So really, there's like a central thing that I think they try to make bigger than it actually felt, where in episode 5, he meets the Great One who has a superior mind. He feels fear, air quotes, for the first time or something like that. And he realizes in part 6 that he has to face his fear and go back knowing that he will probably die. I feel like John's doctor isn't about fear and bravery. I feel like if it was something about like pride, that would have made more sense with his character. He's very, as we've talked about, a doctor that's very much full of pride. He has to be in control of every situation that he's in. When they first introduced the idea of, oh, there's this crystal that he stole it, and now that's the reason why all this terrible thing is happening. It didn't really feel like it isn't really his fault. Like the spiders are just evil. But if like the spiders being a thing was like more like if I were to edit this story, I would make it like so when he goes and plunders Metabelius 3 in the past, that somehow something he did there, the consequences of his own actions are the reason why they're evil spiders. Like maybe there was a spider stowaway in the TARDIS. Something as simple as that.
Yeah.
Something that makes this a comeuppance for him. Something where his pride for feeling like he can just go there and take it is the reason, the true reason why things are happening.
Going on what you said, like I think it would make sense to have it be more him taking the crystal. There would have been a direct cause for that, and then he would have to really pay the consequences of that, and then he would have to feel ashamed about those actions, and then he has to decide at the end of the story that he has to make up for it.
Yeah.
But that's not really in the story as it is.
No.
But I think that, like, in some ways, this is very much like a very John Pertwee Third Doctor story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the elements in there, like I said, like previously. There's the colonization aspect of it.
I guess there's like the mysticism, he's talking, he knows all the cultures.
There's like the bad group that they have to stop. That's like in in some type of not just say bad group. Yeah, but like yeah, it's kind of like a this bad group that he has to stop. That's trying to get something from Unit, and then he has to go to their base to steal it, and like all that stuff is very much like a lot of John Pertwee stories.
Yeah.
And of course, you have the action sequence, which I should not say action sequence, the chase sequence, which is very much like the last hurrah of the Third Doctor in a way.
I would have wanted this story to be more than a best hits. I would really want it to be the culmination of his character where, everything gets kind of tied together.
But of course, in some ways, this could have been that if Raji Delgado didn't die. This was supposed to be at one point the final game.
Yeah, That would have been what I was looking for.
where like this end story where like the doctor and master would fight and then the master would have to sacrifice himself at the end of the day. And I would imagine if at that point if John wanted to leave, they would have the master would sacrifice himself, but the doctor would still like die, but he wouldn't die. He would just like die and regenerate into Tom. Like it would have been something like that.
Yeah, it feels like a best hits and not a true finale.
Which having it kind of be more of a climax of that relationship that we've seen throughout this whole era, it would have worked more.
And we don't even have Joe.
But, like, for this one also, it's like, I understand Joe leaving, but, like, we still have the Brigadier and Benton, and, like, even them in this story, it's not really a climax for them either. The Brigadier and Benton are basically they're in, like, the first 2 pots, then, like, the Brigadier just comes back at, like, the last 10 minutes.
The last, like, 2 minutes.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, it's mostly just Mike.
and it would've been nice to maybe have, like, this a story that had more of a climax for the Unit family, and not just for John.
Yeah.
It may be like you really tying in the whole Yates thing, and then maybe the Brigadier and Benton wouldn't have trusted Yates, but then the doctor would have to convince them.
It was weird, I think, having Mike here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really feel like, he's does some terrible things in Invasion.
Yeah.
Jeez, that was only like 3 episodes ago. It feels like forever. Like he's been gone forever. We haven't even had a unit story since then. I don't know why it feels like so long ago. But it doesn't really feel like he's been redeemed. He's just kind of a good guy again, playing the same kind of good guy he was before.
I don't understand why he contacted Sarah Jane. It would made sense if it was Joe, right? Because they would have had that relationship. But like he barely knows Sarah Jane, so I don't really understand why he contacted her. I guess
Yeah,
it's
they
like
would have met once, and when they did, he would have been, like, getting her kidnapped
yeah.
and stuff. Like, I don't know why they would have any kind of relationship, why there would be any kind of trust.
Sarah's like, no, I gotta go in the car with them. I gotta, gotta investigate the story. There's a story here, but yeah, it's kind of a disappointment for a climax of John. Even though we'll talk about it in a bit, but I really think that the ending is fucking fantastic. The last 5 minutes of this is perfect.
Mhm.
But before we move on to there, Ben, what did you think of the spiders or the? I'm having a blank. I just watched it. What do they call them? Is it the 8 legs?
Oh, yeah, 8 legs.
What did you think of the 8 legs slash the spiders in the story, Ben? The main antagonists.
They were good. The effects were surprisingly pretty good. It definitely looks better when they actually, like, have them puppeting. The couple times they had to use CSO to have them actually crawl on the ground. Looked a little out of place, but overall, I think they looked pretty good. Especially the Great One looked good. As antagonists, I think they're good. I think they're effective. Very, I'll use my favorite word, very menacing. I kind of wish for the finale it was a antagonist or a antagonistic group that was more personally connected to the Doctor, of course. But still, they were good.
I love their voices. Shout out to the voice actresses for the spiders.
Oh yeah, yeah, they were
I
good.
I, I love them.
A little bit reminiscent of the Peladon Green Eye,
Alpha Centauri, which
Alpha Centauri.
you know why, Ben?
Is it the same voice actor?
One of them is the same voice actress who just died recently. She just died yesterday as we're recording this.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
I agree. I think the design is great for the moments where they are more puppeteered. I love, of course, when they're on like people's backs. I love, of course, that moment where we see Sarah Jane, like the spider on Sarah Jane. They're more interesting when they're like kind of like not like seen. They're more just kind of like fuck it. They're kind of just like puppeteering
Just
people.
a whisper in their ear rather than like, I'm actually just a spider sitting here.
Like, I think they work way better like that instead of just, like, as a spider. I wish that we got more of that and less of, "Ooh, they're, a spider creature." And, of course, I watched, like, the behind the scenes documentary for this one, and the production designer was so sad, Ben, of how the lighting was, like, for, like, that main room that the spiders are in.
Oh,
And, of course, that set looks really weird.
it's very much blue,
Yeah.
blue geometric shapes.
Like, she was saying that, like, "Oh, it couldn't be cobwebby because then, like, the cameras would have difficulty," but, like, no, that room needs to be, like, all cobwebs and, like, the spiders have to, like, be a puppeteer moving around it.
Yeah, it was very clean.
It looked dumb. It would have been so much cooler if that room was just a full of, like, cobwebs and
Yeah.
stuff, but, of course, classic Doctor Who doesn't have any money.
Yeah, it was like a Star Trek original series kinda
Yeah,
look to the sets.
very clean.
Yeah, clean, solid color walls and stuff.
Yeah, and just, like, gray backgrounds with some blue on the table, like, it does not look great.
I wish Metabilius 3 looked cooler and not like a desert,
Yeah.
vaguely deserty.
Which is so weird because it's like it's not like they went to like a quarry to film that stuff. Like that stuff is you can obviously tell is studio.
Yeah.
And like as we know from Planet of the Spiders, they can do like a jungle setting in a studio. So it's like it's weird that they just did what they did.
And the stuff that we saw in the Green Death of the Doctor on Metabilius 3 with like really like dark, harsh lighting. It was kind of hard to tell, but it was like vaguely jungly. I suppose some time has passed, but
It's desert, Ben.
it was desert then.
No, 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 no. I'm just saying now. Like now, now. Deserts are better, Ben. Deserts are better.
Apparently.
They went on the behind the scenes documentary. They went into detail about like the floor was like they used different like shit for the floor to make it look realistic because they were worried about the floor looking good. Which I like. Like it's just a shame that they didn't do something a little bit more creative with the design of Metabolus 3. But do we have anything more to say about Metabolus 3
Like the set design specifically.
or the people, the colonizers?
I really have no thoughts about the humans. I could care less, honestly, about them. And with the rocks taped to their foreheads.
Yeah, I did like that one scene though where the doctor like asked them about their history, and like the doctor's like, "Oh, this is by like oral history," and like and he's like, "Oh yes, my father and his father told him," and it's like I like that scene enough.
Where he's fascinated to learn new things.
But then for majority, I would say like once we get to Manabelis 3, I am kind of bored until we leave it.
Yeah.
Or at least when they do the little bit of an action sequence in part 5 when the doctor and Sajin are like escaping.
Mhm.
What did you think of the chase sequence, Ben? Of course, goes on for 15 minutes, it feels like.
It's a little bit over the top for sure. But can you deny that it was cool?
Well, some elements were cool.
Bessie versus the Whomobile, jumping in a helicopter. The Whomobile apparently can fly. So many and boat chases. What is not to love?
You gotta give a shout out to like them having to do the effects for the Humobile, like driving. Doesn't look great, but it could look a lot worse. That's all I'm saying, Ben. Could look
Yeah,
a lot worse.
it was only somewhat distractingly bad.
And I love the cop. And then the cop just at the end just says like, "I'm coming back. I give up. I'm not feeling well."
Yeah.
I thought that was great. Like we mentioned before, like this one of the highlights of this era is like the random characters of mundane life. That was one of the great moments of that. And then also having like the homeless man. I would imagine he's homeless, getting ran over by the doctor and like the boat.
I think that was just like a farmer.
Is it a farmer? He looked kind of homeless to me.
It was like in a field. There was like a silo in the background.
Just chilling on a field, and then just his day just gets ruined.
I mean, he was fine. It just passed right over him.
But of course, we can talk about this. It goes from the Brigadier and Benton chasing the bad guy, having blank on his name, who's driving Bessie. No, who's driving the Humobile? They're driving Bessie.
Lupton. Lupton
Lupton.
is
Yeah.
driving the Whomobile, and the Brigadier and Sarah is in Bessie
Oh yes, it was Sarah. I said Benton. No, I meant Sarah. And then of course the doctor's in the fucking plane thing, not plane thing, the flying
helicopter.
device. Is it a helicopter? I think there's
It was a simplistic helicopter, maybe.
yeah. And of course, Barry Letts has mentioned that this was a potting gift to John because John just loved vehicles, and of course he
Mhm.
drove multiple vehicles in his era, and this is just kind of the his final reward for. And you got to give him credit though because he's having fun driving those vehicles, Ben.
Oh, yeah. Major plot hole, though. They didn't use Bessie's super drive turbo boost button. They could have done that and caught up with the Whomobile like instantly. Do you remember that from the Time Monster?
That's why the doctor isn't driving it, Ben. The Brigadier does not know that exists.
He should have told them.
And then by that point, it's like, oh shit, he's in the air now. We need to take the Whomobile.
They could have just like he could have said it on the radio.
Shout out though to like the hoverboat that the doctor drives. I would say that's my favorite one of the vehicles that he drives. John having a blast driving that vehicle around.
All right, spoil me, Cam. I know Bessie returns. Does the Whomobile return after this?
Ooh, I don't think so. Because it's John's vehicle, so I don't think that John
He
would be
took it
like,
with him.
oh yeah. I think this is the last time we see it.
Wonder
Of
where
course,
the
Bessie we see.
Whomobile is today.
I wonder. Maybe Jon Pertwee owns it. Could be in a museum.
He has a lot of like prop stuff. So I mean, it's not even a prop. That's just his own car.
But like also it's like how the fuck that's a lot of like money to store that thing. Like even if you like have a house with a big garage, like you don't want to store that in your fucking garage. You need to like pay for like parking for that thing. Like where is the Hummervale?
Oh, hold on. I found a article, "The Fate of the Whomobile." Pertwee used the car for personal appearance even after his tenure as a doctor was over. Eventually, he gave it to a fan bereaved over the tragic death of his mother, with Pertwee simply borrowing it back on occasion. Just a few years ago, the car went up for auction. It was misclassified as a boat and went for around £1,200. And that was a article by Retro Thing.
God damn it.
So he gave it to a fan, and the fan they let it go.
$1,200, Ben.
£1,200
But like still, that's nothing.
in like mid 2000s.
Still, that's not inflation wise, that's not the worst. Let's say this is two. I'm gonna do that's too much math for me because you would have to do inflation plus conversion.
Yeah, I can do that, man.
But you would have to do the inflation for both the American and the the British pound.
I guess you're right. Okay, so adjusting for inflation and converting it to hamburger money, it would be 3,400 USD to buy the Whomobile today. Which I mean, the two of us could scrape that together.
Ben, no offense. I don't even need you. I could get that myself. I could get that like in no time. But like the fact that it was sold for that lower price is insane. I am so curious if that wound up with a fan or if that was just some random bloke that said, "Oh, what the fuck's this?" and thought it was a boat, like like that article mentioned, and then put the Hummerbill on water, and then just found out very quickly that it was not a boat, and then the Hummerbill died. I mean, it would never come back ever again. I'm so curious because, like, I wonder if it was. I don't. You're aware of the Doctor Who experience, right?
I know that it happened, and they had a Monoptra there.
But I'm curious to know if the Humabit was there. People in the comments, in YouTube in particular, if you were at the Doctor Who experience, please let us know if the Humabit was there. But anyways, Ben, to get back to Planet of the Spiders, what was your favorite moment in the chase?
Probably when they took off from the ground and flew through the air in the Whomobile. Like, it flies now? It
It
flies
flies
now.
now. Like I mentioned beforehand, it would have been the hover boat for me. Okay, Ben, what did you think of Sarah J in this story?
She was good. Again, might not be her best. I think her best is still Invasion, but she in this is very much trying to be a number two leading lady, kind of off doing her own thing
Yeah.
sometimes. Or I guess a lot of the time I'm picturing in my mind her on Metabilius, but like before Metabilius, it was basically all her doing stuff and the doctor was just off doing his stuff.
I love that scene that she's explaining the whole situation to the doctor, and the doctor ignores her, and she's getting fed up. The doctor ignores her, and then the doctor's like, "Oh, I need you to tell me the story from the start."
She says spider and he starts paying attention.
It's a great moment, and it shows that like Sarah Jane is an active participant in the story, not just somebody that's just gonna give the doctor like his tools and to ask questions. She's gonna ask questions herself, and I think that's a great change for the companion.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just think like what we talked about previously, it's like it's kind of know if that companion works for this doctor as much. The doctor that's more in control. He's the one that's the hero at the end of the day, not anybody else.
Yeah, I think John works better having, like,
Like
a
Katie.
cheerleader who says, "You can do it, doctor,"
Yeah.
and not someone who's, like, doing their own thing.
Yeah, which is why, like, even though Sarah Jane is so loved, I think that it's pretty clear that Katie is just John's companion. But we'll talk about more about
Absolutely.
that in the recap. But yeah, she's fine this episode, but not like this. Is not like one of the great Sarah Jane episodes in Doctor Who.
No.
But I already mentioned before, Ben. What did you think of like the absence of Unit? This is like a story where a couple of years ago, I feel like Unit would have been heavily involved in the story, but Unit kind of just disappears by like part two.
Yeah. It's too bad. I really like The Brig and Benton. Yates was always my least favorite, especially now knowing that he wants to or wanted to destroy the world is a little bit less likable. But yeah, Benton in episode 2 is like, why don't I go in first since I'm expendable? And I'm just like, Benton, you could never be expendable. You're in all our hearts.
There is that great moment though that we have to talk about that we haven't talked about yet, where Joe Grant gives them a letter from Annabelle 3 with the crystal. Just a great little way just to have Joe still be involved in the last Jon Pertwee story.
Yeah.
I love that moment where they list off like it's for the doctor or for the brigadier or Mike Yates or Benton. It's just like she lists off all the unit family. Poor everyone else though. You know how many people work at a unit that just not involved in this stuff?
Yeah, what about Osgood? What's he doing?
Who knows? Unit, even though it seems like it's multi-dozen military operation, really at the end of the day is only 4 people. So
Mhm. And one of them is a dirty traitor.
yes, because it had to be one of them. It would have been weird if it's like we introduced this new guy. Oh, he's a traitor.
What? It was Osgood all along?
Osgood would never. How dare you? What do you think of the Buddhist stuff in this episode, though?
Yeah.
Obviously, to get some of the behind the scenes stuff, Barry Letts was a Buddhist, so he's adding like that element of himself to the story. What did you think of that?
It was interesting. All like the chanting and the mandalas and I was interesting way to tie in with the spiders and stuff. I was kind of disappointed when I think it's Campo is the hermit. The hermit that was lived up in the hill on Gallifrey. And so it's the doctor's old friend, the one who showed him the beauty of life and the wonders of nature is there, apparently. Which that is cool that the hermit is there. I kind of wish they didn't have to say like the episode before, like, yeah, did I ever tell you, remember when I said this? It would have been so much better if I felt like, oh, I remember that.
Hmm.
But I guess it makes sense for kids, and maybe they didn't even miss that episode because there's no reruns.
Yeah,
At first, I thought it was kind of going to go into. Have you seen, or how recently have you seen the Abominable Snowmen?
I have not seen that.
Wow, it's a Troughton story with the great intelligence who's possessing a monk. I think it's a Tibetan monk of Detsen, who is an old friend of the doctor's. Of course, he's possessed by the great intelligence, but the man who he originally was a friend of the doctor. And I thought it was going to be something like that, a reincarnation, but ended up just being a Time Lord. But it was still interesting. It's cool that the Hermit's here.
I do like bringing some like Buddhist stuff into like Time Lords. I think that's an interesting idea. Which they don't really expand on after this.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea that the Time Lords being, of course, this race that like they don't interfere. They just kind of just observe. It's like it makes sense if maybe they were more of a Buddhist society, but they really don't really go into that.
That's not really the impression I got. The Hermit Time Lord is one guy who left to go be a Buddhist monk. Yet another Time Lord just chilling out.
Yeah, but I think it would have been cool to have a little bit more Buddhism into Time Lords. I think that could be interesting.
And there was definitely some like yellow face.
Yes, like there's also like a character that is mentally disabled in this episode.
Yeah. Should we talk about that?
Tommy. Yeah, it's like it's weird because it's like it's not like I don't think it's like the worst thing in the world.
No. But then they find the cure to autism, and it's a metabelian crystal. He's normal now. Isn't this wonderful?
That's where it's kind of goes like, "Oh, okay, this is rough." Because like, of course, you get scared when something like this that is not from our time handles a subject like that. Because you know it's not going to be presented in a manner that would be how we would perceive it in 2024. But again, I think it could have been a lot worse.
Oh, it definitely could have been worse.
You kind of go, "Oh, yay, he can do it."
He is a pivotal character,
He
can
is.
resist lightning.
And they have to all put their power together.
And then Mike, not realizing that Tommy's just chilling, jumps in, but also he's fine. Mike's fine
Yeah.
because he did it from compassion, you know. So lightning doesn't affect compassionate people. I guess that's supposed to be the redeeming of Mike Yates. I don't know though.
But I do like that they like Barry would put something that's so personal for him, like the Buddhism, into the story. In his writing. I think that is a good aspect of this story. Even though that like definitely I wish that they expanded a little bit
Yeah,
more on
there's
that.
been kind of hints of it throughout his time on the show, right?
Oh yeah. And like I like the idea that Yates would go to something like that after his betrayal and try to like, become a better person and meditate and stuff like that.
Find himself again.
It kind of makes sense for that character. I wish they kind of went more into that and maybe had it if it more tied back into the spiders. I don't know really how the spiders connect to that. I don't know. I feel like there could have been some way that they could have tied the Buddhism to the actual overall story
Yeah.
than what is present.
There are very much two distinct halves to this story. One is a Buddhist monastery, one is Metabelius 3. And we jump back and forth, and it isn't always seamless.
No. I personally like the stuff that's on Earth
Me too.
rather than the stuff at Metabolist 3. If it was just a five-parter with that stuff, I think that this story would just work better. Okay, Ben, do you have any overall thoughts before we go into cliffhangers?
Yeah, definitely.
What what's some more thoughts that you have about the story?
There's a couple things I just want to point at. One, we have a new TARDIS key. It's not just like a little modern dinky little key. It's like got the ornate with the Gallifrey symbol on it. Does it have a Gallifrey symbol on it?
I think the key changes so much throughout the classic show. It's kind of hard to remember.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't have the Gallifrey symbol on it. It's got like almost like a shattered shield design on it.
Yeah. But then like I don't know. I kind of more prefer it when it's an actual key just because like does it really make sense for it to be a unique key because it's still like during the chameleon circuit it would still just be a police box. So it would just be a normal key.
Yeah.
But also it's a spaceship. It's a magical spaceship, so who the fuck cares?
He's got to get that chameleon circuit fixed one of these days.
There's a story coming up, Ben, in a couple of months from
Oh,
now,
really?
maybe a couple of years from now. There is a story that deals with that.
Is he just too fond of his little blue box?
Oh yeah, like even by this point, like he could have fixed it. Let's be honest, he could have fixed it.
Yeah.
I think Ian and Brabra and just being close to like humanity, like the TARDIS just represents like him just growing closer and closer to humans and finding who himself really is. That blue box, Ben.
Mhm.
And of course, this story also has another first. This is the first time that they actually refer to the changing of faces or like the death of the Doctor as regeneration.
Let's talk about his regeneration. That last 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, shit. I completely forgot to mention the last 5 minutes. I think personally that this is one of my favorite regenerations. I love it so much. There's so many other regenerations that like, especially like the modern ones, are like big and bombastic and like they give a speech. And it's like this one is so not that. It so much feels like he's dying in this one.
Oh, yeah.
Like John plays it like this is not like a triumphant moment. Like John's like playing it like he's dying, and Sarah is not Sarah, but like Elizabeth Sladen is playing it like she's seeing her friend moments away from dying and she's crying. And then John says that line of just like a tear, Sarah Jane. And it's just like it breaks my heart every single time he says that line, Ben.
Mhm.
It's so good.
It is. It's very reminiscent of, I think, the first Doctor's renewal. He just withers away. And I like that it's been like weeks and he's just been lost in the TARDIS.
Mm,
Or is he lost in the TARDIS or is he lost in the vortex? I forget.
I think it's the TARDIS because he jumps out of the TARDIS.
I don't think the classic show has really gone into it, but the TARDIS is like infinite, right?
Yeah,
I've seen like little snippets in books I've read where he's like walking the many halls of the TARDIS, which is interesting since it's always just been like one, maybe two rooms.
yeah. And that second room is always just the same room, but just without the console.
Yeah, there's a console room. Yeah, that's one thing with this. I kind of like the original interior of the TARDIS where we have like multiple rooms. Like here's like our bedrooms, here's our dressing rooms, here's, you know, let's get some food over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, where it's more like feels like a home and a space that
Yes.
you live in.
Well, this is very much just a vehicle.
Yeah. And then even like Pertwee, like we don't really see the console that much in his era.
No, not really.
The TARDIS isn't really like a key. Even once after he gets the dematerialization circuit, it's not like it's a main factor of the show. It's just like it's just a device that he uses to get from place to place.
I guess he doesn't really need it. He has a home right now.
Yeah. But like, what did you think of those last 5 minutes, man?
Yeah, it was great. I don't know how I feel about Campo being like Papa Nim saying, "Ooh, don't worry, he's not dead." It felt a little weird, but like what he says, I think is interesting. Like, it's gonna grew with his brain. He's gonna be erratic, so be patient with him. He's gonna look different. That stuff is kind of cool. And of course, him actually, dying with Sarah Jane crying, Brigadier standing by.
Doesn't even get to say his last words, Ben. Dies mid sentence.
Does he?
He's about to finish his statement and then he dies. Like, I'll pull it up right now.
Yeah. He says, "Don't cry while this life," and then he dies.
Like, so depressing that he doesn't even get to say like his last statement as a doctor. Like nowadays, of course, they would really like go into heavy about like what's the last line the doctor says, and it would be like on t-shirts. But like this one is just like,
We can kind of extrapolate what he's saying. When this life ends, another begins, or something like that.
but it's such a shame. I that's what I love about it, that it feels like a real death. You
Yeah.
know?
There's no fireworks. There's no explosions.
No.
He just dies.
I love, of course, that line that the Brigadier gives of just like, "Oh, here we go again." I think that like the music cue when it actually happens, that "Wah," it's perfect, so perfect. It makes me just want to go up in the air and just like jump and put on Robot.
Oh, I really want to watch Robot.
It's a side of a new era, man,
I know.
but not really. It's really the next week is the with the Ark in Space is the start of a new era.
But what about his confrontation with the Great One? Do you have anything to add there?
Not really. The special effects, of course, that's a moment where they really go heavy on the CSO. I think the Great One, like that effect doesn't look that bad.
Yeah,
It's just the CSO does not hold up at all.
yeah, like the cave that is behind him
Yeah.
is clearly a model, but the spider looks good.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something that could be said, like the Doctor is a man with a lot of hubris, and it's the Great One's hubris that destroyed her.
But the first Doctor to die from radiation, Ben. Get ready.
Only the first?
Well, he is the first, right?
Well, I mean, how many more are there?
A lot. A lot of doctors die due to radiation. A common thing that will happen, Ben. Get ready.
How does the first Doctor die?
He just kind of gets old and just kind of just goes, he goes into his TARDIS.
Old age doesn't suddenly just catch up with him, though. Is
Uh, do, do you know how Time Lords work, Ben? Because he kind of just goes, I'm old, and then he just goes to the TARDIS.
Oh, that was one thing. Is regeneration is somehow tied with the TARDIS itself, right?
No,
No? Oh, okay.
no.
I don't know why I thought it was like a function of the TARDIS, but it's just something inherent.
In Time Lords. but not Gallifreyans. Don't. There's a fucking difference, man.
I know there's some kind of debate about whether Time Lords as a title, as a species, as a rank.
Well, there's no debate. It's in the show. It's a title. The Gallifrey is the race, and Time Lord's the title.
There are Gallifreyans that are not Time Lords, not even Time Princes.
No, it's just like you have like a PhD or you don't have a PhD. It was just like if you have a PhD, you get 12 lives.
Just got to go to university, Gallifreyan
You
University.
got the magic.
I wish the Master was in this episode, man.
Yeah, it's a shame. It always will be one of those shames that like we never got that last Roger Delgado and Pertwee story of them facing off.
I wonder if there's a Big Finish lost story or something. There should be.
No, there isn't yet.
Big Finish, you can take that idea. I know you're listening.
But then like the hot thing is that like I don't know if do they have a Roger impersonator.
No, they have a lot of masters in their group, but they should get a Roger impersonator if they don't have one already.
Because it would be weird if they were like, yeah, we're gonna bring back like Jeffrey Beavers to do it. Like, no, it needs to be a Roger impersonator.
I feel like they have to have someone. Like there's the whole like Third Doctor adventures. There has to be one with the Master. Here we go. Terror of the Master, part of the Masterful audio anthology. It has a picture of Delgado, Jeffrey Breeders, Mark Gatiss, Derek Jacobi, Alex Mc. Okay, it has all the masters credited. Who is
Yeah.
one of them is impersonating Delgado. I don't know who though.
Oh, it's John Kershaw does do like his voice for at least that story that you mentioned.
Chameleon.
But then I think that's just a like an audio book, like that's just like a companion chronicles version of it. Like it's not like an actual like drama. So I don't know if anyone actually does do that.
Oh yeah, it's narrated by John. Short trips aren't full cast, right? That's also okay. There's a short trip with the Master, also narrated by John Kulshaw.
Yeah.
I guess they could get John Kulshaw. I don't know who he is, or if he would be able to capture them.
Oh, dude. I don't think he does do a master voice, but like you're gonna once we do Tom Baker, I'm gonna send you the clip of him. He is hilarious. He is an impersonator and he does Tom Baker a major like his most famous, I think. I believe. At least I know him from his Tom Baker impression. And his Tom Baker impression is hilarious. There's a great interview where he's interviewing Tom Baker and he's playing his Tom Baker, interviewing Tom Baker. And it's the greatest video.
I will look forward to it. I think I'm ready to do cliffhangers.
Okay, man.
The first one is Lupton and his men summon a giant spider. Do you have anything witty?
I just wrote, spider.
2, the Doctor jumps into Lupton's boat to find that Lupton has disappeared.
Oh my god, that dude's gone.
The Doctor is knocked out by spider magic lightning from one of the Queen's guards.
The doctor got hit by lightning. My god.
4 is the Doctor is captured trying to rescue Sarah.
I just wrote, oh, doctor, because I think that's what Sarah says at the
Yeah.
end of the serial.
5, Lupton's men put all their strength together and attack Tommy.
Oh no, not Tommy.
Which that one was kind of weird because like we have like that last 60 seconds of the serial that usually gets repeated, but they like
Yeah.
add new stuff in between like the scenes. So like we still have like recap in episode 6, like 4 minutes in.
And of course, like I feel like the cliffhanger must have been at some point the reveal that Sarah Jane has the spider on her back and that portrays the doctor.
It would have to been. I guarantee that they ran over or they ran under and they had to edit things that weird.
Which is such a shame because that would be like the standout cliffhanger for this because that scene is so great.
Yeah. And then of course, in the last episode, the Doctor regenerates into someone somewhat erratic.
I think the best one is he's gone on the boat after the chase sequence.
Really?
Yeah, there's not a lot of great ones in this story.
I thought the third one was good, where the Doctor's like, is he dead? Oh no.
Yeah, but that one's that I don't like the doctor like, oh my god, is he dead? Because they're like, we know he's not dead.
I suppose.
With the one he's got, it's like, oh, where the fuck did he go? Could have gone anywhere, man.
And the first one, giant spider reveal, first time. That one was all right. I would probably go with the first or the third. Alrighty. ranking and rating for the final time for Jon Pertwee. We'll rate the expanded media, but it doesn't really make sense to compare the two to the actual television episodes. What would you give this story, Cam?
8.1.
I was thinking along the same lines.
Good, but not like very good or like
Yeah.
good in a big way. It's just kind of like lowercase good.
Yeah, it easily crosses the threshold from a 7 into an 8, but it's not a high 8. Yeah, I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna do 8.1. That feels right.
And for that rankings for me at least, it's one below Terror of the Autons.
I ranked mine the same as The Curse of Peladon, which I rated that too high.
And then Carnival of Monsters, I have a little bit higher than that. But yeah, we're going to be doing an episode before we get to Tom Baker. We're going to do like a rankings and ratings of the Third Doctor.
A kind of third Doctor retrospective.
Yeah, so we're going to do more into details of where we think stories fits, what's his best stories, what is his worst stories. And we're going to try to come together, do a Wee Ood ranking of the Third Doctor.
We're gonna break out a tier list.
So look forward to that.
What do the polls look like?
The polls say, Ben, that
They said it's mid, right?
it's a little bit lower than mid. It's number 16.
Ooh, that is low.
It's low. I think that for the viewers at home, Doctor Who magazine readers think that Curse of Peladon, Day of the Daleks, Doctor Who and the Silurians, Terror of the Autons, The Sea Devils are better than Planet of the Spiders. 2023, this story ranked number 16. 2014, this ranked as number 13, as well as 2009. But in 1998, it ranked as 14. So this latest poll is the lowest it's
So it's
been.
gone down.
I assume part of this is that 2014, the DVD would have been fresh in everyone's mind. And then just throughout the years, it would have like the people would have thought maybe more and more like, oh, that's actually not really as great as we thought it was.
If I rewatched it, I could see me not liking the majority of the story as much. Like it has some great things, but it's a long six-parter.
Yeah. And it doesn't do a lot interesting, like extremely interesting, I should say.
Yeah.
So, Ben, what did you think of season 11 as a whole, Pertwee's last season as Doctor Who?
Real quick, let me calculate both our average ratings.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's math time.
So you would rate the average rating for this is a 7.06, which for you is putting it just barely above season 9 and about point 0.2 before season 8. And mine is 6.96, which puts it as the worst Third Doctor season for me, but puts it better than any of the first Doctors. What did you think of this season?
So I'm kind of shocked that, like, math wise, I prefer this to season 9 just by like 0.02 points, of course.
Yes, just they might as well be the same.
I think I do prefer 9 overall as a whole. I think this is his worst season. I think you have the highlights, which is Time Rare, stand out of the season. Love that story to bits.
It didn't really do it for me as much.
Vision of the Dinosaurs, surprisingly good.
Yeah,
But like not like great, but like surprisingly like not bad. Death to Daleks, bad. I know some of you love it out there. I'm not one of you. I wish I was you.
really, it's Death to the Daleks and the Monster of Peladon really dragging that average down. And then, I mean, you really like the Time Warrior. To me, I would call the first two fine stories, sevens, essentially. And Planet of the Spiders is good, but it isn't quite enough to save season 11. Very inconsistent, which a lot of these seasons are very consistent.
Yeah.
And this one is not.
This is a time of the show where you kind of go like, yes, time change is needed. We need a new team to come in here, bring some new juice to this.
New cast, new crew.
From the cast perspective, from the writer's perspective, and from the settings perspective, I think Unit by this point is kind of, I'm done seeing Unit stuff. I kind of more want something different from the show.
We need Harry.
We need Harry. We need, but in particular, we need Tom Baker, and we need Robin Holmes to come in there here and give a little bit of darkness to the stories and a little bit more grit to the stories. I'm very looking forward to seeing what you think of the Hinchcliffe era, which I don't know if you're aware of this, Ben. A lot of people say that's the best era of the show, period. Big fan favorite.
It's not that long, right? It's like season 14 or something. he goes to?
It's 12, 13, and 14.
All right. Well, too bad about season 11, but I'm looking forward to season 12. But first, we are going to dive into some expanded media.
We're gonna explore the Hooniverse,
Yes.
Ben. That's the correct verbiage now.
Absolutely. Just really dip our toes. We've deliberated and come to the decision that we are going to cover in 1993 and 1996. Jon Pertwee returned to the role for two BBC radio dramas, that being The Paradise of Death and The Ghosts of N-Space. And that was, I believe, the two of those are the last time that he appears as the Doctor before he passes away. And then we are also doing a BBC Past Doctor Adventures novel, The Last of the Gadarene, which is, of course, written by Mark Gatiss, who goes on to write for much of the Revive show.
And of course, his co-creator with Stephen Moffat for Sherlock.
Yes, of course. Can never forget Sherlock. Yeah, and then we're gonna do our Third Doctor retrospective, and then it's robot time, baby. So continue to tune in for that. But thank you so much for listening. Give us a like, comment, subscribe, follow, share, all that good stuff.
Go to the TikTok.
Yes.
TikTok. It's what all the young kids are using, Ben.
TikTok might be gone by the time this episode comes out, though. Like TikTok goes
Who
away in
knows?
what, September? October? RIP TikTok.
The new one, Bip Bop.
Bip bop. Maybe it'll be Musically again.
Who knows?
I'm surprised there hasn't been like a scramble, like, when Elon Musk bought Twitter. It was like, gotta go to Blue Sky, gotta go to Mastodon. But TikTok, I mean, there's already TikTok alternatives, I suppose. YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels.
But the big one is YouTube Shorts. Like, you don't have to go anywhere else because everyone already is. If you use TikTok, the majority of TikTok users, I would imagine, is also using YouTube Shorts. Or if you're old, you're using Facebook Reels.
What about Amazon Inspire?
What the fuck is that, Ben?
Do you not have the Amazon app on your phone?
I do not. Oh, the Amazon shopping app?
Yeah.
What the fuck? What do you mean, Ben?
They have TikTok. It's Amazon Inspire.
I've never experienced that. I'm going on right now.
It's a vertical scrolling where you can watch people
just-
review products, I guess. I don't ever go on it. It's just like, why is there a Amazon, like, everybody's wants the TikTok.
I never noticed that this was here.
It's like the second button on the home row.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at it right now. It's insane. But nobody uses this, let's be honest here.
I'm sure there's at least one Amazon Inspire addict. They just keep scrolling.
How do we get Wee Ood on Amazon Inspire, Ben?
All right. Well, we got to look into that.
Come on, Bezos, hit us up, dude. We'll be the first podcast on Amazon Inspire.
I mean, we're on Amazon Music, so like, is it really that much of a stretch?
Come on, Bezos, you scared.
Alrighty. Have a wonderful night, everybody.
Peace out and join us next week for something will be there next Saturday,
Yes,
ladies
it's
and
a
gentlemen. And I
surprise.
hope you watch it / listen to it if you're a podcast listener.
Alrighty. Peace.
Peace out, everyone.